lot of exciting new capabilities have been added to our RailPro products. Adding RailPro to your favorite locomotive can be easy. A RailPro locomotive module has a DCC compatible 9-pin connector, so you can install them in your favorite locomotive just like a typical DCC decoder. You can use a 21-pin or 8-pin adapter wiring harness if necessary to make installation easy in DCC-ready locomotives that have a 8, 9, or 21-pin DCC socket. A locomotive with a RailPro locomotive module installed is dual mode. A locomotive with a RailPro locomotive module can be controlled by popular DCC systems. Of course it can be controlled and set up by radio control by using RailPro controllers too. When you install RailPro on your locomotive, you are adding a high-speed, two-way radio transceiver that adds capabilities to your locomotive. RailPro modules have direct radio plus net and can receive radio communications via RF signals straight to the locomotives, and the locomotives can talk to each other and to RailPro controllers. RailPro adds full radio networking capabilities to your locomotive. RailPro installed in your locomotive adds features that just don't exist with a typical DCC decoder and is very easy to use and set up. We have new sound technology for RailPro. Our new sound technology is powered by full digital recordings of real locomotives, precision mixing, and when coupled with our new motion technology, truly creates the ultimate in sounds experience. One of the many new features in our new sound solution is a feature that eliminates the annoying looping effect that exists in even high-end DCC offerings. This deficiency that exists in current sound decoders can be heard when a locomotive is idling or running at a steady notch. The problem occurs because they play the same sound over and over again. The looping does not sound natural and can even sound annoying. Our new technology resolves this problem with constant subtle changes that keep it from sounding like it is just looping and making RailPro modules sound natural and realistic. To demonstrate this, we'll first play a sound from a typical high-end DCC decoder, and on the screen we'll flash a message so you can see and hear when the looping sound starts again. After a couple iterations of the looped sound, the looping becomes obvious and clearly does not sound proper. Then we will play a sound from our new RailPro Ultimate Series sounds. Although the cadence of the prime mover is still there, the sound constantly changes and sounds like an authentic prime mover. First, the sounds of a typical high-end DCC decoder. Now the sounds of RailPro's new Ultimate Series sound. Since your locomotive will likely spend the vast majority of its time at idle or running at steady speed, we believe this new technology is the best improvement model train sounds possibly since sound was introduced. Further, with RailPro, you can load your own custom sounds, custom radio chatter, or whatever you want. Even create your own custom horn and bell sound files. Our new TrueMotion technology uses a mathematical model that simulates static friction, dynamic friction, and more to make your locomotive run with more realism than ever before. And this technology is real easy to use. Just set the amount of user load and crank up the throttle. Hear and see your locomotive pound out the horsepower and smoothly break away from a dead stop. Feel the effects of inertia as you drop off the throttle. Our new load setting allows you to select a load value from 0 to 100%. You would set the load value to 100% when you're pulling your heaviest train, and set the load value to 0% when the locomotive is running with no freight cars attached. You only need to set the load value once, then as the throttle is changed, the motion of your locomotive is governed by the mathematical model to produce results like a real train. Our true motion technology is superior to the typical DCC decoder offering of setting a brake and ramping up the prime mover before the train begins to move. First of all, you only need to set a load value one time compared to setting a brake every time you take off. Secondly, there's no extra buttons to push when you drop the throttle down. You hear the prime mover wind down as the momentum of the train keeps rolling on, just like the real thing. Take a look at this short video of a locomotive that has its load value set to 100%. RailPro has now added a light effect editor to its easy-to-use RailPro Assistant software. You can create almost any imaginable light effect that you want. The light effect editor allows you to make custom light effect files. The light effect files can be loaded to a locomotive or accessory module, then selected to drive your light outputs. You can also change the cycle rate of a light. For example, if you think our beacon light effect flashes too slowly or too quickly, you can edit our light effect file and make a custom one with the exact flash rate that you want. One potential use of the light effect editor is to compensate for differences in LEDs and incandescent bulbs. LEDs can turn on quicker than incandescent bulbs. You can adjust on and off rate and shape of the light effect to correct any differences between LEDs or incandescent bulbs. In the light effect editor, it shows a graph of the light effect. The higher the graph sample, the brighter the light will be. As you can see, the amount of time in seconds is displayed across the bottom. So in the current example, the light will turn on in about 2 seconds. Now we will add a turn-off time of 4 seconds. Of course, we offer many pre-made light effect files that you could choose from, such as Mars, ditch lights, gyro lights, and so on. So you can just use our pre-made light effect files and do not need to use the light effect editor if you do not desire any higher level of accuracy in your light effects than what is available from our pre-made selection. RailPro locomotives can be easily consisted and do true load sharing by using radio control. RailPro can use Direct Radio plus Net to make running different manufacturers' locomotives with even different motors and gear ratios simple. All you need to do is run an auto setup for the motor and you're ready to link locomotives together. The RailPro auto setup takes just a few seconds. No CVs or speed table settings are necessary. Now we'll take a look at how easy and well RailPro consisting works. First, we couple the locomotives together. In this case, we back up the lead locomotive until it couples with the follower locomotive. Then press the link button and touch the picture of the lead locomotive. Notice the screen displays select locomotive number 2. Touch the picture of the next locomotive. Continue selecting locomotives until all the locomotives to link are selected. Finally, press the done button. Now these 2 locomotives are linked and ready to run. Changing either locomotive's speed or direction will affect all the locomotives that are linked. To demonstrate how well the RailPro linking technology works, we're going to show you how 2 very different locomotives run very well together. We have an Athearn F engine and a Kato SD90. These are about as different as you can get. For one thing, the Athearn takes a lot of throttle to get it started, and the Kato takes very little. The Athearn will run at a top speed that is nearly twice as fast as the Kato. To make it even worse, we're going to put the faster Amtrak locomotive in the back. Notice how the couplers stay tight and the motion is smooth throughout the speed range. The reason is the lead locomotive is monitoring its pulling power and using Direct Radio plus Net to send that information back to the follower locomotive. And the follower locomotive is matching the lead locomotive in pulling power. All this direct radio stuff happens without you even knowing it. To demonstrate that the lead locomotive is commanding the follower locomotive to pull with the same power, not just run at the same speed, I uncoupled these locomotives, and I set down the throttle. Notice what happens when I increase the load on the lead locomotive by restricting its motion. The lead locomotive commanded the follower locomotive to pull harder, causing it to speed up. If the follower locomotive were coupled like it should be, it would have just pulled harder. The very high-speed communication of direct radio plus net is required to link locomotives like RailPro does. Real-time adjustments allow you to instantly see or hear your changes so you can very quickly achieve the settings you desire. With RailPro, you can set volume, light brightness, start speed, top speed, chuff rate, and more in real time. Our RailPro products have many built-in fault protections. For example, our locomotive modules have light output short circuit protection, over temperature, motor overload, and much more. Additionally, these faults can be displayed on the handheld controller in real time. We will now demonstrate a motor overload. The locomotive shell is removed so we could stop the motor with our fingers to simulate a fault where something jams the motor. Notice that the locomotive module detected something was wrong and shut the motor off. Touch the fault symbol to see what fault is being reported. The fault being reported is motor overload. In case you do not know exactly what that means, you can touch the fault message to bring up help for that fault. The first possible cause listed is that the motor is mechanically bound up. In this case, that was the problem. To clear a fault, you need to cycle power on the locomotive. We will tip the locomotive up briefly to disconnect power and reset the fault. Now this locomotive is ready to run again. It is direct radio's two-way, high-speed communication that makes real-time fault reporting and monitoring possible. RailPro locomotive can be easily converted to battery power. Putting a battery inside a locomotive is gaining popularity. What makes it easy is the fact that a RailPro module has radio communications built inside. Therefore, generally speaking, you can disconnect the red and black wires from the wheel pickups and connect a proper battery to the red and black wires. A battery can supply power to the module, and the module's radio control will work just as it did when it was track powered. To use a RailPro module with your DCC system, you would need to buy at minimum one locomotive module and a computer interface module. Our computer interface module is very low cost, and it can be used to program and run a locomotive with a RailPro locomotive module installed. You would plug the computer interface into your computer's USB port and load the HC Simulator software from Ring Engineering's internet site onto your computer. The computer interface adds direct radio plus net radio communications to your computer so it can communicate with RailPro products like a RailPro locomotive module. The HC Simulator software is a free download. The HC Simulator software draws a picture of a real RailPro handheld controller on your computer screen and can basically do anything that a real RailPro handheld controller can do. You can use the HC Simulator to load sounds, light effects, update the program in the locomotive module, and much more. The HC Simulator has an easy-to-use graphical interface, so you do not have to deal with CV programming to set up a RailPro module. The graphics make it so easy to set the volume, start speed, or even change sound files and more. To enable DCC operation, you go into the adjustments and enable DCC. Then type in the DCC address for the locomotive and press Save. After setting the DCC address and the motor full load current, the locomotive can be controlled with your DCC system. Setting the motor full load current is easy. There is an automated setup for setting the motor full load current, and it only takes a few seconds. Changing which DCC button controls which sound, light, or action is easy in RailPro. You go into Adjustments, then page through the various adjustments until you get to the button Setup page. Then you select the RailPro button that you want to change. For each RailPro button, you can see what DCC function button will control it. The front light defaults to F0. The horn is F2. And the bell is F1. If you want the bell to be on F5, just change the DCC function mapping to F5. What about price? They must be real expensive, right? Actually, it's not. You can get our locomotive modules with sound for less than you can many high-end DCC sound decoders. Imagine that. A RailPro module has so much capability that is not in a typical high-end DCC decoder with a radio transceiver too for less. If you buy a DCC ready locomotive instead of a DCC with sound installed locomotive, you can often save $100. Then you can use the money you save to buy a RailPro module to install in the DCC ready locomotive. In many cases, you could end up with a locomotive that is about the same price or maybe even less and have not just a DCC locomotive, but have a DCC and RailPro radio controllable locomotive. RailPro products are made in the USA, and it is our opinion that our products are of the highest quality and simply the best. We are so confident that this is true that if you don't think that this is the case and you bought the products from us, we'll refund your money for the products. At Ring Engineering, it is our commitment to supply the highest quality products at simply the best possible prices, giving you the value that you want. You can buy RailPro products from our internet site at www.ringengineering.com or from many popular online resellers. You can see a complete list of hobby shops and online resellers that carry our products on our internet site. So order yours now so you can see, hear, and enjoy the RailPro difference.